This is sports handicapper Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review, and here's your MLB overnight lines. Look ahead to the games on Monday, June the 20th. Let's get right to it and start by looking at the St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago Cubs in a big NL Central battle between these two teams. And if you'll recall, last week I recommended John Lackey when he took the mound against the Washington Nationals. We picked up a nice winner with John Lackey in that start against Washington, and I really have no issues with backing him here facing the St. Louis Cardinals. I mean, John Lackey's numbers this season, just fantastic. 2.66 ERA. At home, he's been even better with a 1.66 ERA. And right now, Lackey's getting some of the best numbers of his career in terms of the advanced metrics. His FIP, his xFIP, his strikeouts, his swinging strike rate, all among the best rates of his career in those categories. There's nothing fluky about what John Lackey's doing. Now, because of his age, I have issues about whether he's going to be able to keep this up. I think there's going to be some point where you're going to see regression fall into place for John Lackey, but right now he's not offering you any sort of evidence that he's faltering and slumping at any moment. So to me, until Lackey shows signs of regressing and declining a bit, he still remains a bet-on pitcher. His track record facing his former team, the St. Louis Cardinals, in his two previous starts against them this year, very good. 3 runs allowed in 14 innings, and he's allowed 3 runs or less now in 9 straight starts overall. I think he can probably go out there and pitch well here. Jaime Garcia on the mound for the Cardinals. I've got some concerns about him. He's really been hit hard in a couple of these starts he's had recently. I mean, the balls are really being tattooed off him. Hard contact being given up by Jaime Garcia. He's allowed 9 runs on 21 hits in just 11 innings of his last 2 starts against Cincinnati and Houston. Cardinals have not been winning consistently at all with Garcia on the mound. They're just 2-4. In his last 6 starts, including 0-4 in the last 4 trips to the mound that Garcia's had against the Cubs. So it's been a tough time winning against this Chicago team overall, and with Garcia on the mound for the Cardinals. Chicago 7-2 against St. Louis head-to-head in the last 9 games between these teams. It's a steeper price than I normally like to endorse. Chicago's laying north of -150 in this game, but I'm willing to lay a little bit of a steeper price here. So I'll look to the Cubs, get about -155, -160 in that range, see if they can take care of business and win once again with John Lackey on the mound against St. Louis, a team they've dominated in recent outings. How about the Battle of the Sox? The White Sox and the Red Sox. Really, this is going to be no surprise which socks I want to put on, which socks I want to wear in this game. I want to wear the Red Sox. They're the cool socks. They're the socks. They're the in socks right now. They're the socks that look cool. Not the White Sox. The White Sox look like those old raggedy, cotton socks from the 50s. Who the hell wants to look good in that or wear those kind of socks? That's basically the comparison right now between these two teams, because you got the White Sox not playing very good baseball right now at all. And Miguel Gonzalez is a guy specifically. I've been waiting for this guy to hit a wall because he got off to a really good start with the White Sox, but he finally did have that rough outing. A lot of the peripherals and the advanced numbers say he was going to decline at some point. He certainly did in his last start against Detroit. It was a rough one. He allowed 7 runs on 8 hits in 3.1 innings. Won't be easy for him at Fenway Park against Boston. And let's keep in mind, Miguel Gonzalez was with Baltimore previously in his career. This Red Sox team, especially the veterans like Dustin Pedroia, David Ortiz, they should be familiar with what to expect from Miguel Gonzalez the times they faced him with when he was with Baltimore. So I think the Red Sox are going to come to the plate here with a good approach. The White Sox bullpen was taxed heavily over the weekend against Cleveland. So if Gonzalez doesn't pitch deep, and he has a track record of not being an innings eater, that White Sox bullpen could be vulnerable. They were taxed and used heavily in that series against Cleveland. James Shields didn't pitch deep. They didn't get a big lengthy outing out of a couple of their other starters in that series. So they could be a little bit vulnerable as well. And on the flip side, Stephen Wright, the knuckleballer for Boston, we've talked about him on more than one occasion. We bet on him on more than one occasion. He continues to get the job done. He's had a strong season. He's allowed 3 runs in his last 19.2 innings over his last 3 starts. Boston 8-5 in his 13 starts this season, including a nice 5-0 perfect run with Stephen Wright on the mound in his last 5 starts. Boston, it's a little bit too pricey, a little bit out of my range to recommend the money line, but what I will do is I will lay the run line here with Boston, -1.5, and it is worth noting, Boston has won each of Stephen Wright's last 5 starts by 2 runs or more. So that bodes well for any run line bet here with the Red Sox, and that's what I'll endorse. I'll look to Boston, lay in the run line, -1.5 in that game to be able to get the job done against the Chicago White Sox. And before we wrap up this video, I've got to talk about Washington taking on the LA Dodgers. It's probably the penultimate pitching matchup of the day in Major League Baseball for Monday, June 20, Strasburg against Kershaw. And I've been big-time pro Steven Strasburg. We've talked about Steven Strasburg more than one occasion. He's had a tremendous season here for the Washington Nationals. Healthy finally after all these years, staying on the field. He's got a little pop back in his arm again. He's got a little bit. He's got that movement back with his pitches, and it's showing. I mean, Washington 13-1 this year with Steven Strasburg on the mound. Strasburg with a 2.90 ERA. Overall on the season, and in fact on the road, Washington 8-0, or excuse me, 5-1 this year in Steven Strasburg's 6 road starts. So very impressive numbers. When you see that kind of track record for Strasburg in the season he's having, and him getting this kind of price tag, +165, +170, it's tempting, it is, but don't forget who's on the other side of this pitching matchup. It's Clayton Kershaw. And I'll tell you what, if you've been betting these Clayton Kershaw, LA Dodger under parlays with Clayton Kershaw on the mound, you're just rolling right now. You have to go all the way back to May. If you go all the way back to May 1st, that's Clayton Kershaw's last 9 starts. The Dodgers are 9-0 in those 9 games. The under is 8-0-1 in those 9 games. So if you've been betting the Dodgers and you've been betting the under, game in and game out with Kershaw on the mound, you've piled yourself up a nice little chunk of profits, that's for sure. Now, the problem is the total here is 5.5. Can you trust this game to stay under the total? You can almost get to 6 runs or more by accident in any baseball game. And don't forget, you got bullpens involved too that could cause havoc in the latter stages. But the good news is Kershaw, for the most part, has done a pretty good job pitching deep into games this season. 7.1, 8, 6, 7.2, 9, 8, 9, 7, 9. I mean, he's been pitching deep into games. If you go down the list of his recent starts, even Steven Strasburg, on the other hand, for the Washington Nationals, 7 strong innings in each of his last 2 starts. He went through a stretch there where he had 5.16, so even he's been pitching relatively deep into games, so you may not see either of these bullpens quite a bit in this game. Definitely not betting this game over the total, that's for sure. It'd be under or nothing for me. And as much as Strasburg is tempting at that underdog price, how do you go against 9-0 Kershaw in his last 9 starts, or the LA Dodgers? That's a tough track record to be betting against. So I'll be fascinated to watch that game. Not likely to be getting to the betting window, though, prior to first pitch with any sort of wager on it, though. All right, that will wrap it up for the look at MLB overnight lines for the games on Monday, June the 20th. I'm sports handicapper Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. As always, check out sportsbookreview.com every day for the latest in quality sports betting information. Until next time, enjoy the games and good luck.